Hello and welcome to the Networking Power eCoaching. This is lesson number 1 and my name is Paul Puckridge. It's my pleasure to welcome you to these lessons. My phone number and email address are there on the screen, and if after this session you'd like to contact me, I would be delighted to speak with you. Let's get into these lessons. By the way, feel free to press pause at any time, have your handout in front of you, and write down any information you're learning from this session. Something that I am asked a lot when I run these training courses is, how do you remember someone's name? Well, I'm going to give you 3 ideas today. The first idea is to repeat their name 3 times, their first name 3 times, within a minute or so of starting a conversation. So when they introduce themselves, really pay attention to their first name. Let's say you're meeting Peter. Hi, my name's Peter. Peter, it's lovely to meet you. So Peter, my name's Paul Puckridge. I'm from the Success Institute. So Peter, tell me, where are you from? And Peter says, I'm from Yarra Valley Water. Peter, that's fantastic. So Peter, what's your role at Yarra Valley Water? And he says, I'm an engineer. Okay, that's interesting. So tell me, Peter, what part of the business do you work in? I'd love to know more about that. Now, I've just used his name 3 times. Now, it may seem to you that it's quite obvious, but when you're in a networking event, a conference and so on, and lots of people are talking, no one's going to pay attention to you using his or her name 3 times. But the secret is, use it 3 times in quick succession without it making it obvious, and you will have a greater chance of remembering his or her name. Another trick which I learnt from memory expert Harry Lorraine is to look at their face or body and ask yourself if there is something memorable about them. For example, do they have a large nose, a small nose? Do they have bright red lipstick? Are they very tall or very short? And can you link their name to some part of their body? For example, if I meet someone called Dave, I imagine this person diving off a diving board. Now, Dive and Dave sound similar, so when I meet Dave or David, I'll think of diving. So I imagine that this person is on a very high diving board and he's diving into the water. Dive and Dave. You might meet someone called Georgia. Well, you know that there is a state in America called Georgia. Maybe you've been there. If so, you could imagine Georgia being in Georgia. Or maybe the singer singing the song Georgia on My Mind. So when you see her face, maybe you imagine a guitar or a group singing. What about Sally? Sally, celery. This is going to sound weird, but maybe you imagine celery coming out of Sally's head, a big stick of celery. It sounds crazy, and you're probably thinking right now that I'm weird, but trust me, if you go to Google and type in how to remember names, you will discover that memory experts suggest that the crazier, the more wild the association, the better that you will memorize someone's name. So imagining a stick of celery coming out of Sally's head is going to give you a much greater chance of remembering Sally's name. If you're thinking, but what if I call her Celery? Chances are you won't. Celery, Sally. Let me just do a couple of others on the fly. What about Bob? Well, you could imagine this person bobbing in the water, just Bob's head bobbing up and down in the ocean. Look at his face and now picture him bobbing up and down. Recently, I met a gentleman from Finland, and his name was Mika, M-I-K-A, Mika. I think it was 2 Ks, M-I-K-K-A, Mika. So when I meet Mika, I think of mic or microphone, or a microphone. So I imagine Mika standing up and singing behind a microphone or a microphone. So when I picture his face, I imagine a mic, Mike or Mika. Like I said before, you might be thinking to yourself, but what if I say Mike? Well, you might say Mike, but chances are if you did that, you would correct yourself straight away because you'd know his name wasn't Mike, it was Mika. Or imagine Mickey Mouse as another association. Have a bit of fun with word associations. What about your own name? Is there an association? Or think about popular names of people you know in your team. Is there some sort of association? The third idea is to ask yourself, who do I know that has the same name? Do you have a friend, a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, a partner? Or is there someone famous? For example, you might meet a person called George. Well, does this person look like George Clooney or George Costanza? Do you know someone else called George? In Canberra at the War Memorial, there is a bomber, a Lancaster bomber called G for George. Could you imagine this person flying this bomber? Remember what I said earlier, the crazier the idea, the greater chance you'll have of memorizing someone. What about Sharon or Bernadette or David? Who do you know who's called David, who might look like this person, or someone famous that you could imagine him or her being with? I said George before. Maybe it's George Clooney. Maybe you imagine this George and George Clooney are in some sort of movie together. Sounds crazy, but it does work. So there you go, remembering names. Let's now talk about introducing others. Let me give you the scenario. You're at a networking event and you are with someone and you want to introduce this person maybe to your manager or to your colleagues. Well, here's how you could do that. Go up to the person you'd like to introduce your friend to and say something like this. Let's say Penny, in this example, is your manager. Penny, I'd like to introduce you to Jared. Jared is from, and then the name of the organization. When you do that, just to offer a useful segue for Jared to start the conversation or for Penny to start the conversation with Jared. So the secret to introducing others is you need to, as the facilitator, have a segue. For example, Penny, I'd like to introduce you to Jared. Jared works at the Ford Motor Company and he's one of the engineers who's currently working on the X project. At that point, Penny now knows who Jared is, where Jared is from, and what Jared has been doing. Penny might say, oh, that's fantastic. Well, tell me, what is the X project? Does that make sense? Or you could say, Penny, Jared's one of our clients. In fact, I've been talking to him for the last year and we've finally got to meet him. And Penny might say to you, so tell me, Paul, what have you and Jared been working on together? So always offer a segue that enables the conversation to keep flowing. All right, third idea, keep calm and follow protocols. So what are protocols? Well, think about protocols around time and space. In other words, are you going to an event where you should be there on time? In most situations, the answer is yes. What about space? I'll talk about space in a few minutes' time in more detail, but space is, how much space should I take up? Should I be comfortable getting nice and close to the person I'm talking to, or should I stand back? Seniority. Protocol suggests that whenever you're introducing yourself to a group of people, you always introduce yourself to the most senior person first and then go down the ranks. So just think about that. If you're talking to a group of people, who is the most senior? Introduce yourself to her or him first and then introduce yourself to the others. By the way, this applies in business. You always introduce yourself to the most senior person, going through the ranks to the most junior. I'll touch on culture in a few minutes' time, but think about the protocols around culture. For example, there are some cultures or some religions where it is considered inappropriate for a man to offer his hand to a woman he doesn't know, in other words, to shake hands, or for a woman to shake hands with a male she doesn't know. Just think about the cultures that you're dealing with and understand what may be the protocols. For example, again, in some cultures, it is considered inappropriate for a man to talk to a woman without the woman's guardian or husband being there. Now, you might think, but Paul, that's crazy. Well, maybe to you and to me, that is not something that we would do, but there are cultures where that is the case. Or vice versa, where a woman is not permitted to speak to a man she does not know by herself. Perhaps if you're talking to someone from a different culture, they are not permitted to drink alcohol. So therefore, it would be inappropriate if you had a glass of beer or wine in your hand while you were talking to this person or this group. I'll talk more about culture shortly, but just be aware of that, that culture is something very important, and you should try and understand the protocols around it. Gender. In our culture, Anglo-Saxon, Australian culture, generally speaking, we treat everyone the same. We shake hands the same, whether it's with a male or a female. We talk to people the same. But in saying that, understand that there are other cultures where genders are treated differently. Don't get upset by that. Just try to understand and respect other people's cultures and customs. Generations. Would you agree that someone who is in his 60s may communicate and think differently to someone in her 20s? And the answer is generally yes. So think about the sort of conversations you would have with someone who is much older than you or someone who is much younger than you. They're probably going to use a different vocabulary. They're probably going to interact and communicate differently. In Australian culture, we do tend to, in fact, in most cultures, older people are venerated. We hold them up. We show them a high level of respect. So just consider different generations of males and females, ages, younger generation, and what you might need to say and do when connecting with people who may be a different generation to you. Body language. This is a big issue. I won't spend too much time on it other than to say that in our overall communication, body language is about 64% of our total communication package. The tone of our voice is just under 30%, and the words we use are a measly 9% of our communication. So therefore, the way you appear, the way you use your body when you're connecting with someone plays a much bigger role than the words you use. For example, if you're crossing your arms, if your hands are full, in one hand you've got a glass of wine, in the other you've got some food, then you're showing the other person you're talking to that you're more interested in yourself, in other words, having a feed and having a drink, rather than connecting with that individual. If you've never done a course in body language, consider learning about the different types of positive and negative body language, because it's critical. Here's the thing. If you're giving off negative vibes by your body language, chances are people aren't going to connect to you. Proxemics is how close we talk to people. This is Lyndon B. Johnson, the American president, and he was known as a close talker. Just have a look at that. How would you feel? And in fact, if you look at the other person, they're leaning backwards, feeling very uncomfortable at his close talking. If you've ever watched Seinfeld, then you would know that there was that episode on close talking with, is it Judge Reinhardt? Very, very funny. Don't be a close talker. Give people enough room. So what are the zones? The intimate zone is up to around 44 centimeters. And the only people we tend to feel comfortable being in our intimate zones are those we are intimate with, our children, our partner, perhaps someone a very close friend. Personal zone is around 45 centimeters to 1.2 meters. And these are people we feel comfortable being around, such as our colleagues or customers we know really well. And then we have a social zone, which is around 1 meter to just over 3 meters. Generally, when we meet someone, we will start off in a social zone, let's say around 1 meter away. And as we get to talk to them and get to like them, we will move closer, or we will allow them to move closer to us. Being in the intimate zone, that's the close talking zone, we tend to feel uncomfortable with people we don't know. All right, topics to avoid. Well, there we go. I should just show you that slide and move on. Here's the thing. Avoid anything to do with religion of any sort. Even if you're of the same religious background, my advice is to not go there. Not a good topic to talk about. Politics is never a good topic to talk about, especially personalities. For example, if I said Donald Trump right now, there'd be a lot of people who go, boo, and they'd tell me all sorts of terrible things about Trump or Hillary Clinton. So if you are having any sort of conversation at all, stay away from politics. Even in Australia, Malcolm Turnbull at the time of this recording, Bill Shorten, Tony Abbott. Here's another one, Tony Abbott. Mention his name, and a lot of people will back right off. Maybe that's a way of getting rid of people, huh? Also, anything controversial. Just stay away from topics that someone else might disagree with, especially someone you don't know. If you know this person really well and you know what he or she believes, then fine. Have a conversation about whatever the case is. But if you don't know what they believe, stay away from anything that may cause the two of you to get into some sort of even mild disagreement. Different cultures. All right, here's a few things to think about. Learn about cultural differences. Here are some cultural differences. Guests. How do different cultures treat guests? In some cultures, guests are treated very differently. What about male-female family dynamics? For example, in some cultures, men play a very dominant role. They are the patriarchs. In some cultures, women play a major role. They are the matriarchs. Again, think about cultures, customs, countries. Are there some countries where education is considered very important, and others where perhaps it isn't? In some cultures, do they venerate those who are elderly? If so, which cultures are we talking about? Body language. In some cultures, there are certain parts of the body that are considered holy, and you shouldn't touch them. Do you know what those body parts are? Learn how business is conducted. There's a wonderful series of books called Should I Kiss, Bow or Shake Hands? And these books expound the idiosyncrasies of different cultures. So, for example, in some cultures, it's considered appropriate to turn up late. In other cultures, it's inappropriate to turn up late. Learn about networking and business etiquette based upon the different cultures that you're dealing with. That's a very important consideration when you're networking. Also, understand people's customs. What is customary when you're meeting people from a particular country or culture for the first time? I'm suggesting that you learn about these religions to help you gain a greater understanding of people from these faiths. There are other religions where certain types of animals are not eaten. For example, pork, both of the Muslim faith and the Jewish faith. Finally, gain insights into the major religions of the world. You don't have to be an expert in each of these religions, but it would be useful to understand some of the major beliefs of these religions, just so that you gain an appreciation as to why people of these faiths may do or not do certain things. For example, people of certain religions do and don't eat certain types of food. They have certain days that are more holy than others. They celebrate their holy days on a different day of the week, say to Christians who may celebrate their holy day on a Sunday. There are other religions that celebrate it on a Friday night and through Saturday. I believe that the more you know about customs and religions, simply from a knowledge perspective, is going to help you become a better networker. Finally, let's talk about following up. You've just gone to a networking event, you've met some people, and now you'd like to follow these people up. Here are some things to do. Take a notebook and a pen with you to networking events. And after you've just met someone, you've said goodbye, just turn away, take out your notebook and write some notes about this person. Because if you don't, chances are you're going to forget who this person was and what you discussed. So take some notes to help you remember. Show respect to people's business cards. Now, I've mentioned this at the training. There are many cultures, almost every Asian culture, where business cards are considered a very important part of the networking process. Do not put your cards in your top pocket. Do not put your cards in your wallet. Do not put their cards in your top pocket. You must treat their cards with respect, especially when you are meeting them. But also afterwards, you want to make sure that you have the cards that you can put on your desk, read the card through, and then contact this person. If you put their cards in your top pocket or your jacket, chances are it's going to get lost. After you've had a good meeting or introduction with someone, I would suggest that the following day you send them an email or a thank you note telling them how much you enjoyed talking to them. If this person is someone you would like to build into your personal network, then I'd suggest you try and catch up with them for coffee or some other social activity within 30 days. Don't leave it too long. If you meet a lot of people at a networking event, and once again you believe that you would like to keep them in your networking group, send this person something by email or by mail a couple of weeks after the networking event. For example, let's say you've met someone from a car company, and this person is someone you'd like to connect with and meet again in the future. Maybe this person is someone that you feel could help you in your day-to-day business transactions. If you see something on the internet, a news article that relates to his company or relates to a topic that you were discussing, clip this article or photocopy it and put it in the post and send it. Or copy the link on the website and forward it as an article for him or her to read. Hi Jody, I hope you're having a good day. I just saw this article on the Herald website yesterday and thought it might be of interest to you. Enjoy the article, have a good day, best regards, Paul. But only do that if what you're sending is something that's going to be of interest to the person you're talking to. Something else that a lot of people don't do, but the best networkers always do, is they send a thank you card or note or email to the event organizer. This shows the organizer that they're appreciated. It also gets you recognized as someone who is more than just the average networker. You've gone to some level of trouble to send him or her a thank you note or an email, and you're showing your appreciation. That goes over really well when you take the time to thank the person organizing the event. All right, well, we've come to the end of this short follow-up webinar. I hope you've enjoyed it. Now, your job is to go out and network. So until we talk together again, I want you to enjoy every success.